Imagine walking into a meeting where tensions are high. Everyone is frustrated, voices are rising, and you can feel the anger spreading like wildfire. Most people would either explode in frustration or shut down completely. But what if you could recognize your emotions in real time, understand why others are reacting the way they are, and navigate the situation with clarity and confidence? That is the power of emotional intelligence, and it is exactly what Bradberry and Jean Greaves teach us in their groundbreaking book, Emotional Intelligence 2.0. This is not just another self-help book. The authors tested emotional intelligence alongside 33 other important workplace skills, and the results were shocking. Emotional intelligence is the strongest predictor of performance, explaining 58% of success in all types of jobs. Even more striking, 90% of top performers have high emotional intelligence, while only 20% of bottom performers do. Your IQ might get you through the door, but your EQ determines how far you go. The best part? Like IQ, which remains relatively fixed, emotional intelligence can be developed and strengthened at any age. Understanding how emotions work. Before diving into the 4 skills, Bradberry and Greaves explain something crucial about how your brain works. The physical pathway for emotional intelligence starts at your spinal cord. Your primary senses enter here and must travel to the front of your brain before you can think rationally about your experience. But first, they travel through the limbic system, the place where emotions are experienced. This means every piece of information you receive is processed emotionally before it reaches your rational brain. This explains why you sometimes react before you can think. Your emotional brain, the limbic system, processes information first and triggers responses in milliseconds. When you perceive a threat, real or imagined, your body floods with stress hormones. Your heart rate increases, and your rational thinking goes partially offline. This system saved your ancestors from predators, but today it gets triggered by emails, deadlines, and difficult conversations. Here's what changes everything. Emotional intelligence requires effective communication between the rational and emotional centers of the brain. Information travels between these centers, much like cars on a city street. When you practice EQ skills, the traffic flows smoothly in both directions. Increases in this traffic strengthen the connection between the rational and emotional centers of your brain. The more you think about what you are feeling and do something productive with that feeling, the more developed this pathway becomes. Your brain physically changes through practice. The foundation of everything. The first core skill is self-awareness. Simply put, to be self-aware is to know yourself as you really are. This is your ability to accurately perceive your emotions as they happen and understand your tendencies across different situations. Most people operate on autopilot, reacting to emotions without truly understanding them. When you do not take time out to notice and understand your emotions, they have a strange way of resurfacing when you least expect or want them to. It is their way of trying to bring something important to your attention. They will persist, and the damage will mount until you take notice. A technology manager was known for being efficient, but colleagues avoided working with him. He could not understand why his team seemed distant. After completing an emotional intelligence assessment, he discovered a blind spot. Whenever he felt under pressure, he became dismissive and his tone shifted sharply. He was completely unaware of how his body language and communication changed during stress. Once he recognized this pattern through self-awareness, he started noticing when pressure began building. He would pause, take a breath, and consciously adjust his approach before responding. Within months, his team dynamics transformed completely. The authors emphasize that self-awareness is not about judging your emotions as good or bad. Emotions are not good or bad. They are simply information. Judging a feeling only adds more emotions like shame or pride on top of what you are already experiencing. Instead, self-awareness means observing your emotions with curiosity. What triggered this feeling? Where do I feel it in my body? What pattern is emerging? Building self-awareness requires practical strategies. The book recommends keeping track of your emotions throughout the day. At the end of each day, reflect on moments when you felt a strong emotion. What triggered it? How did you react? What physical sensations did you notice? Over time, patterns emerge. You start recognizing your emotional triggers before they hijack your behavior. Another powerful technique is to seek honest feedback from people you trust. Ask them how you come across in different situations. Their observations often reveal blind spots you cannot see on your own. Taking charge of your reactions. Self-management is the second skill, and it builds directly on self-awareness. Once you recognize your emotions, self-management is your ability to use that awareness to stay flexible and direct your behavior positively. This is not about suppressing feelings. It is about choosing how you respond to them. A person with strong self-management does not let anger dictate their words, does not let fear stop them from taking necessary risks, and does not let disappointment spiral into helplessness. Think about a sales professional preparing for the biggest pitch of her career. The night before, she receives news that a competitor has undercut her pricing significantly. Panic sets in. Her mind races with worst-case scenarios. She feels her heart pounding, her hands shaking. Instead of spiraling or staying up all night worrying, she practices self-management. She acknowledges her fear, writes down what she is feeling, and then shifts her focus. She asks herself, "What can I control right now?" She realizes she can differentiate on value rather than price. The next day, she delivers a pitch focused on long-term partnership and innovation. She wins the contract. Her competitor offered a lower price, but she offered something more valuable: confidence, vision, and solutions. The authors provide specific strategies for building self-management. One critical insight is understanding that you do not have direct control over your emotions, especially when something triggers them. However, you do have control over your thoughts. You can calm yourself down and handle your emotions by thinking about perspective, timing, and your options. The key is creating a brief pause between feeling and reacting. Sleep hygiene plays a massive role in self-management. When you are sleep-deprived, your brain's ability to regulate emotions plummets. Your limbic system becomes overactive while your prefrontal cortex, responsible for rational thought and self-control, functions poorly. The authors stress that getting adequate sleep is not optional for emotional intelligence. It is foundational. Breathing techniques also strengthen self-management. When you feel an intense emotion rising, taking slow, deep breaths sends a signal to your nervous system that you are safe. This activates your parasympathetic nervous system, which calms your stress response and allows your rational brain to engage. The book emphasizes practical, physical strategies that work in the moment. Reading the room. Social awareness, the third skill, is your ability to accurately pick up on emotions in other people and understand what is really going on with them. This goes beyond hearing words. It involves reading body language, tone, facial expressions, and the unspoken energy in a room. People with high social awareness notice when someone is hiding discomfort behind a smile, when enthusiasm is genuine or forced, when silence signals agreement or discomfort. A hospital nurse was caring for an elderly patient who insisted everything was fine. The patient smiled, answered questions politely, and followed all instructions. But the nurse noticed something subtle. The patient clutched the bedrail tightly, and her eyes darted toward the door repeatedly. Instead of taking the words at face value, the nurse sat down, softened her voice, and said, "You seem a little worried. What is on your mind?" The patient broke down and admitted she was terrified about an upcoming procedure but did not want to burden anyone. That moment of social awareness allowed the nurse to provide emotional support that was just as important as medical care. The book emphasizes that social awareness requires becoming fully present. Most people listen with the intent to respond rather than to understand. Your internal monologue is busy planning what to say next, which means you miss critical emotional signals. Social awareness means silencing that internal voice and focusing entirely on the other person. Watch their body language. Notice changes in tone. Observe what energizes or deflates them. One practical technique the authors recommend is to watch interactions in public spaces. Observe people in a coffee shop or airport. What emotions do their bodies express? What relationships can you infer from their proximity and gestures? This practice sharpens your ability to read nonverbal communication without the pressure of being directly involved. Social awareness also includes understanding timing, recognizing when someone is open to conversation and when they need space, knowing when to push for clarity and when to let silence speak. This sensitivity transforms interactions from transactional exchanges into meaningful connections. Bringing it all together, relationship management is the fourth skill and the culmination of the previous three. This is your ability to use awareness of your emotions and those of others to manage interactions successfully. It encompasses communication, conflict resolution, influence, teamwork, and the ability to build lasting bonds. You cannot effectively manage relationships without first managing yourself and understanding others. A project manager inherited a team fractured by conflict. Two senior members refused to collaborate, undermining every meeting with passive-aggressive comments. Previous managers had tried forced team-building exercises and stern warnings. Nothing worked. This manager took a different approach rooted in all four EQ skills. She used social awareness to understand each person individually, meeting with them separately to hear their perspectives. She discovered through active listening that both felt unheard and undervalued. Using relationship management skills, she created a structure where each person led different project components, giving them ownership and recognition. She facilitated a conversation where they could express frustrations constructively. Within weeks, the hostility dissolved. The team delivered their project ahead of schedule. The book provides specific techniques for difficult conversations. One effective approach is addressing behavior, impact, and asking questions. Instead of attacking the person, describe what you observed, explain the impact it had, and invite dialogue. When you interrupted during the presentation, it seemed like the idea was being dismissed. I am curious about your perspective. Can we talk about how to collaborate more effectively? This approach addresses the issue while preserving dignity and opening conversation. Active listening is another powerful tool the authors emphasize. This involves reflecting back what someone says to confirm understanding. It sounds like you are frustrated because the deadline changed without consultation. Is that right? This simple validation often diffuses tension immediately and opens genuine dialogue. Relationship management also means knowing when to invest energy and when to step back. The authors stress that emotional intelligence is not about tolerating abuse or dysfunction. It is about making informed choices about where to direct your emotional resources. Some relationships are consistently toxic and drain your energy without offering growth or mutual respect. High emotional intelligence includes recognizing these situations and setting boundaries, or ending those relationships when necessary. The 66 Strategies. What makes Emotional Intelligence 2.0 uniquely practical is its collection of 66 specific strategies readers can implement immediately. The book does not just explain concepts. It provides a detailed action plan for building each of the 4 skills. These strategies range from simple daily practices to techniques for handling complex emotional situations. For self-awareness, strategies include keeping an emotion journal, seeking feedback from trusted people, and visiting your values regularly to ensure your actions align with what matters most to you. The authors recommend creating time in your day to reflect rather than constantly reacting. For self-management, techniques include creating a gratitude list to shift perspective, using self-talk to coach yourself through difficult moments, and making your goals public to increase accountability. Physical strategies like exercise and sleep are emphasized repeatedly because they directly impact your brain's ability to regulate emotions. For social awareness, the book suggests practicing the art of observation, living in the moment rather than constantly planning your response, and going on a tour of your workplace to understand different perspectives. The authors encourage readers to watch body language carefully and test their ability to read situations accurately. For relationship management, strategies include building trust through follow-through, having open communication about feelings, and explaining your decisions rather than simply announcing them. The book emphasizes that small, consistent actions build strong relationships more than grand gestures. Each strategy is designed to be actionable. You do not need special training or perfect conditions. You simply need to choose one strategy, practice it consistently, and observe the results. The compound effect of small improvements creates dramatic long-term changes. The financial impact. The research behind this book reveals something that organizations cannot ignore. People with a high degree of emotional intelligence make more money. An average of $29,000 more per year than people with a low degree of emotional intelligence. This happens because higher EQ improves every interaction. You navigate conflicts more smoothly, build stronger professional relationships, communicate more effectively, and lead with greater influence. Each 1-point increase in emotional intelligence adds $1,300 to an annual salary. This is not because employers have a specific formula linking EQ scores to pay. It is because the skills that emotional intelligence develops, communication, collaboration, conflict resolution, and leadership, are the skills that drive career advancement. These capabilities compound over time into dramatically different career trajectories. Organizations are recognizing this reality. 75% of Fortune 500 companies use emotional intelligence training and assessments. They understand that technical skills get people hired, but emotional intelligence determines who succeeds, who leads, and who stays. Employees with high EQ receive better performance ratings, advance faster, and contribute more to organizational success. The impact extends beyond individual careers. Teams led by emotionally intelligent managers perform better, experience less turnover, and report higher job satisfaction. Companies that prioritize emotional intelligence in hiring and development consistently outperform those that focus solely on technical qualifications. The business case for EQ is overwhelming. Your personal action plan. Emotional intelligence is not a destination, it is a practice. The authors recommend starting with assessment. The book includes access to an online emotional intelligence test that provides your baseline score across all 4 skills. This assessment reveals your strengths and identifies specific areas for growth. Knowing your starting point gives you a clear target for improvement. After assessment, choose one skill to focus on first. If self-awareness is your weakest area, start there. Select 1 or 2 strategies from that section and commit to practicing them for 30 days. Consistency matters more than intensity. 5 minutes of daily practice builds the neural pathways that strengthen emotional intelligence. Track your progress. Keep notes on situations where you applied your chosen strategies. What worked? What felt difficult? Where did you see improvement? This reflection reinforces learning and helps you adjust your approach. The book recommends retaking the emotional intelligence assessment every 6 months to measure progress objectively. Find an accountability partner. Share your EQ goals with someone you trust and check in weekly. Discuss challenges, celebrate wins, and practice skills together. Emotional intelligence develops faster in relationship than in isolation. Having someone to process experiences with accelerates growth. Remember that setbacks are part of the journey. You will have moments where you react poorly, miss social cues, or mismanage a relationship. The authors emphasize that high emotional intelligence includes self-compassion. Acknowledge what happened, learn from it, and return to your practice without harsh self-judgment. Progress is not linear, but it is real. Why this matters now? In a world that changes constantly, emotional intelligence remains your most reliable competitive advantage. Technology continues advancing. Industries transform. Job requirements shift. But the ability to understand yourself, manage your reactions, read others accurately, and build strong relationships will always be valuable. These are fundamentally human skills that machines cannot replicate. The workplace has become more complex, more diverse, and more demanding. Success requires navigating ambiguity, collaborating across differences, and maintaining performance under pressure. Technical expertise alone is not enough. The professionals who thrive are those who combine competence with emotional intelligence. Beyond career success, emotional intelligence determines quality of life. Your relationships, health, happiness, and sense of fulfillment all connect to how well you understand and manage emotions. People with high EQ experience less stress, build deeper connections, resolve conflicts more effectively, and report greater life satisfaction. The skills in this book apply to every area of life. The transformation waiting for you. The difference between where you are now and where you could be is not your circumstances, intelligence, or background. It is your emotional intelligence. Every frustrated conversation, every missed opportunity to connect, every moment you react instead of respond is feedback showing you where growth is possible. Think about the person you become when you master these 4 skills. You walk into difficult situations with confidence because you trust your ability to navigate any emotion that arises. You build deep, authentic relationships because people feel genuinely understood around you. You make better decisions because you access both rational analysis and emotional wisdom. You lead with influence because others trust your judgment and integrity. This is not about becoming perfect. It is about becoming conscious, aware, and intentional. The most successful people are not those who avoid negative emotions. They are those who feel them fully, understand them clearly, and choose their responses wisely. That is the promise of Emotional Intelligence 2.0. Your journey begins with a single decision: to pay attention to what you are feeling and to use that information wisely. The book provides the roadmap. The strategies are proven. The research is clear. Now the only question is, will you commit to developing the one skill that can transform every aspect of your life? Thank you for watching. If this summary opened your eyes to the power of emotional intelligence, subscribe to this channel for more deep dives into books that transform how you think, work, and live. Check out the full detailed breakdown of Emotional Intelligence 2.0 and discover other life-changing book summaries that will upgrade your mind. Your next breakthrough is just one video away.